Hey, are your freeform or starter locks skinny? Or in other words, do you notice that your locks are beginning to develop thinning edges? In this video, I'll be showing you 4 surefire ways of preventing your starter or freeform locks from thinning away. Stay tuned. Hey, Freeform Lockers, I'm Emmanuel from Freeform Locs, bringing you yet another fantastic video about Freeform Locs. Today, we'll be talking about 4 surefire ways of preventing your freeform or starter locks from having thinning edges, or would I say thinning edges or even the roots. Okay, this is a response also from one of my subscribers. I really hold her dear to my heart. She's Miss Miko 77. Okay, and this video was made in response to a comment that she dropped for about a week ago on a video that I posted. It reads, "I love your response. Very well said. No twist and shout needed. Lol, LOL. Just let it be. I would like to know more about when your edges are thinning. What can you do to help with that? If you're freeforming, blessings. You and your wife make a beautiful couple." Yeah, thank you, Miss Miko 77. Thank you for really shouting out and appreciating each and every one of my videos when I post them out. Yeah, thank you so much for your support, your encouragement, and your likes and comments. Okay, so we'll be jumping right straight into answering her questions. Okay, how do you prevent your locks from thinning, especially the edges? Okay, especially these edges here, right? How do you prevent them from thinning? Some people also have problems with the root that is also thinning away. In this video, I'll be addressing both scenarios, the edges and the roots. Okay, so before we get there, there are some things. How do you know that your locks are thinning in the first place? How do you know that they're getting skinny? The first way of knowing that is that your locks become visibly less anchored and secure. What does that mean? It means that when you go like to the base here, you realize that they are not anchored. You see, like here, this here is quite thick. That's a thick base here, so it's well anchored here. Yeah, all of these ones equally, as you can see here, they are properly secured and anchored. All right. In the case of thinning, when you have thinning locks, what happens is this base here isn't anchored. It's loose and it can even pop out at any time. The second symptom is that your scalp is inflamed. You have an inflamed scalp. Okay, the scalp is inflamed, and this normally happens when you develop buildup in your scalp, when it is also subject to a lot of traction, something called traction alopecia. When you are accustomed, when you usually do tight braids or tight ponytails, that is aggression to your scalp, so the scalp becomes inflamed over time. When you develop buildup also in your locks, like when you're using gels and oils, which my channel, you know how we do it. We are freestyle. We advocate going the no oil way and just using your natural sebum, which is your hair oil. Okay, so what happens is if you develop also a buildup, your scalp may become irritated and inflamed, and you would also have thinning edges. The third symptom also is that you have excessive hair loss after a shower. Yeah, you go for a shower or a hair wash, lock wash day, and you realize that a lot of hair is falling off. That shows that your lock isn't anchored. Okay, your scalp is not healthy, and therefore it is. And because it's skinny and thin at the edges or at the root, then it has a tendency to break away, to fall off. Fourth symptom, a fourth sign that you have that your locks are thinning is that the locks are loose. It's just what we're saying. The locks are loose or they are falling out. Okay, they lose because they have no anchor right there. And another telltale sign is that you have a noticeable change in your hairline. Yes, a noticeable change in your hairline. When you look at your hairline, because this is your hairline right here. all of this here is your hairline. Okay, this right here is your hairline. So what happens is that when you have thinning locks, this hairline will tend to recede. They call it a receding hairline. Receding means that you realize that initially from day 0, your hairline was here, and as the days go by, the hairline begins to shift and back here, for instance. The same thing would tend to happen here. Alright, your hairline was here from day 0, and you realize that it is receding, it's shifting backwards, and your hairline, so that's a sign that this locks here or this hair here isn't properly anchored, and it's either falling off or the scalp around here is getting irritated, inflamed, and then the hairline begins to shift backwards. Sometimes you see some persons have a hairline like around here. Okay, that's something that I battled a lot with when I used to go frequently to the barbers. All right, and what will happen is they'll give me that fade, the haircut, and when they're coming to trim here, they'll trim like somewhere here. So building Freeform Locs equally has been a way, has actually helped me to recover my hairline, my natural hairline, which is right here, as you can see. Okay, I don't trim it actually. So this is a natural hairline right here. Okay, so those are 4 signs, 5 telltale signs that your locks are thinning. Okay, now we're going to go into what you need to do. All right, I'll be talking about the 4 ways to prevent them. The first one is to have to use a satin slip cap or pillowcase. All right, why satin? Satin is smooth, okay, and it's preferable because it reduces friction between your hair, the lock, your locks, all right, and the surface of your bed. Okay, so if you're using a pillow and supposing you don't have a slip cap on, what happens is your hair would tend to, there will be friction between your hair. Maybe I should grab this. So here's a pillow right here. Okay, so what happens is that there's that contact between your hair and the pillowcase, and there's friction which develops along the time, along the line, all through the night. There's friction that develops here. All right, and when there's friction, what happens is the hair has a tendency then to be pulled. There's some traction happening there, and which is not healthy for the locks. So by having a slip cap on, you maintain that hair in there, and if it's satin or silk, what happens is it reduces that friction. Okay, the second thing, and then because it reduces friction, it will reduce thinning eventually in the locks. All right, the second thing about having a slip cap, especially a satin slip cap, or you could ultimately also have a pillowcase that is satin or silk, that will also reduce friction. So the second advantage of having a slip cap or using a slip cap, a satin or silk slip cap, is that it also helps you to retain your natural, your oils, okay, or sebum, right? So what happens is, most of the time if you're using a cotton pillowcase, that cotton would tend to absorb, to drag in, to suck off the natural hair oil that is building up in your locks. And you know that your natural oils are very essential to building and keeping your locks well anchored, secure, tight, and growing just naturally. All right, so if you use satin, silk as a slip cap or pillowcase, what happens is that there's less absorption or sucking off of that natural oil onto your pillowcase or onto your slip cap. All right, so that's the same thing. So you have the natural oils, but you also have moisture. Oh yeah, so what happens is when you have that slip cap at night, it tends to retain some moisture in your lock, and that does very good for your roots. Okay, because that does very well for your roots in general. So that's the first way of preventing thinning. The second thing is, you see, also talking about the silk cap, also it's an ideal way to grow your edges. All right, when you have a silk cap, the edges of your scalp, of your locks, don't have a tendency to be pulled, or they're not subject to friction, and therefore you have a high chance of retaining the edges of your locks. As you can see right here, all of my edges are kind of, the new growth tends to have tends to be thin. But that's it. So you remove friction from your hair, and you would help your lock then to develop a thick edge, and both the edge and the root will remain thick. The second surefire way of preventing thinning in your locks, or your starter locks or freeform locks, is by hydrating or moisturizing your dreadlocks. Okay, in the previous video I showed you a simple way of hydrating your locks, and what happens is it's very important to keep your hair hydrated, right? Because this will combat thinning roots, and it's going to also promote healthy hair. Oh yes. So by hydrating, what happens is you prevent the hair from breaking, or you also you allow the hair to have its natural elasticity when it's hydrated, and therefore there's a high tendency then that it's not going to thin off, and it's going to also keep your edges nice and thick, both at the edge, okay, and also at the root. So hydrating is very simple. You can go back to my other videos. I showed you a simple way of hydrating your locks. Third way of preventing your freeform or starter locks from thinning or having thinning edges or roots is by avoiding tight hairstyles. What do I mean? We have popular hairstyles such as braids, weaves, tight ponytails, okay? And for some people who have locks and they go for braids, okay? Alright, or two-strand twists, for instance, okay? Now, when they are too tight, what happens is that the tighter the hairstyle, the more pressure is applied to ultimately to the root, okay, and even why not to the edges, okay. And now this causes your roots to be damaged. They become frail, and when they become frail, they lose their anchor. The hair, the lock isn't anchored anymore onto your scalp, and then it becomes frail, and then it ultimately starts to thin off. Okay, I'm sure what I'm guessing is that probably if you look at Lil Wayne, or if you look at sometimes I've forgotten his name, these rappers, they tend to have braids with their locks, and because sometimes those locks, the braids are very tight, what happens is that it causes tension, and it causes what is called traction alopecia, okay, because you tend to have hair loss, or the hair becomes frail because of traction from having tight braids, okay. So that's so by just avoid any hairstyles that are too tight, okay, and then you allow your roots and your edges ultimately to be free, and then you build thicker locks. The last way of preventing thinning edges is simply by massaging your scalp. All right, massaging your scalp. That's what I promote a lot more when you're doing a hair wash or a lock wash. When you're doing your lock wash, pay attention to the scalp. All right, that's an opportunity for you to massage the scalp. So the more you massage the scalp, what happens is that you're increasing blood flow, and when you're increasing blood flow onto the scalp, you're allowing your hair to develop new growth. And the more you have new growth, particularly at the base, then your hair grows in a circular motion. All right, and it even goes faster for those who have my friends who have type 4C hair. All right, so the more you have new growth, the more you develop thicker roots. All right, and the same thing would happen, and the more that happens, then it's going to push up, and you have thicker edges equally. So that's it. There you have it. I've just talked about 4 different ways of preventing your locks from thinning off. The first one was to have a satin or silk. I personally have what I use is a wool. I have 2 wool caps. All right, and they are not cotton, they are more of wool, so they tend not to absorb any natural hair oils, and they keep my locks in place equally. The second way is to I've forgotten the second way. So the second way is to, what did we talk about? To hydrate, of course, hydrating your locks. By hydrating your locks, what happens is that you prevent your locks and from having anything. The third way is by avoiding tight hairstyles, and the last way is by massaging your scalp. If you do these things, you're going to have healthy locks, healthy roots, tight and thick edges or thick roots like you're seeing right here. Right? So enjoy your freeform lock journey, and I'll be seeing you on the next video. I hope that Miss Miko, I was able to answer some of your questions. All right, it's not exhaustive. There are definitely other ways, but I thought these are 4 ways that you can already begin to apply. So you have a fantastic day, and see you on the next video.